Speaking of hot days,
Nice.
I feel like what are we doing? um, Speaking of hot days, so we are literally just about less than a week away from humans getting on top of a Falcon 9 rocket to go to space for the first time since the space shuttle. And I wanted to give you guys a rundown on what we can expect coming up here on May 27th. And I have the exact mission timeline here for you guys that we're going to go through.
That next Wednesday?
Yeah, Wednesday, May 27th.
One caveat, you mean from U.S. soil?
Yes, American astronauts from U.S. soil launching on American astronauts, American rockets, American soil. As Jim Bryan's name.
It's the American International Space Station. It's American Space Station, not the International.
Okay, so this is the mission timeline here.
Look at the American timeline.
Jeez. Okay, so at T-minus 4 hours and 15 minutes, there's a weather briefing, and that's when they just confirm, that there's no. And actually, I should probably show you guys this or we'll talk about it afterwards. But there is the most stringent launch criteria for weather because of all of the concerns about, if they had to abort, they basically have to have clear weather all the way from the launch pad until they're in orbit. So that whole path has to have no storms. It's crazy. So I'm expecting this to be more delay prone than a normal launch. So just a heads up. But anyway, T-minus 4 hours and 15 minutes, there will be a crew weather briefing. At T-minus 4 hours and 5 minutes, it's crew handoff, which I think just means it's like a baton. Someone's running with Bob and Doug, and then they
and then just hand them off to somebody.
They just hand them off to somebody. Yeah,
we have giants coming in for this
mech. They're just like giant mechs or whatever. Okay, at T-minus 4 hours, that's when they put the suits on, otherwise known as suit donning. I did not know that word before I wore that one, before I wore Boeing's spacesuit, and the lady said, when you don and doff it, I was like, or doff was the word that I did not know. Doff.
Could you say they are donning now their space apparel? Can we just sit with that and how brilliant that was for just a second?
During my live stream for this, I will definitly just continually say that.
They are donning now their space apparel.
Okay, so then they walk out at T-minus 3 hours and 22 minutes. So they have, 38 minutes to get their clothes on and walk out the door. That's a lot less time than a lot of people I know. And so they're going to walk out from the Neil Armstrong Operations and Checkout Building. T-minus 3 hours 15 minutes. They get put into those Model X's that we've shown you guys pictures of in the past. It takes them about 20 minutes, 7 minutes to go from the building to Launch Complex 39A, where they will take off at 3. They get there at T-minus 3 hours and 15 minutes. Minus 2 hours and 55 minutes. It does take 20 minutes to get from the Neil Armstrong Operations Building to Launch Complex 39. They must be going slow.
They're in creep mode the whole time. They're just summoning it. Actually, there's not going to be a driver. They're just going to hit the button.
They're actually walking outside of it, just in front of it, just letting it follow them.
Fun fact, if you have the Come To Me feature, the Smart Summon, and you just run in front of your car, it will follow you wherever you go.
Well, that's definitely what they're doing, I'm sure.
That's what I would do.
Yeah. That's why it's taking 20 minutes. They're actually only going about 200 meters.
Yeah.
Okay. Then, so they arrive at the pad at basically T-minus 2 hours and 55 minutes. At T-minus 2 hours and 35 minutes. So after 20 minutes, they will actually get inside of the Dragon capsule. Must be a very slow elevator. 15 minutes later, they do a communications check. They then verify ready for seat rotation, because the Dragon capsule seats, they kind of start like a normal seat almost. You walk into the space capsule, you sit down pretty normal, and then the seats actually lift up and move into position, bringing the astronauts more into like a vertical, where they're horizontal, sorry.
Right.
Where they're kind of like laying on their back and the screens are really close to them then. And that is the launch configuration. And then they do a suit leak check at T-minus 2 hours and 14 minutes. At T-minus 1 hour and 55 minutes, they close the hatch. So that's exciting. I mean, that's It's just even talking about this. I'm starting to kind of feel like
so they're gonna be sitting there in the enclosed capsule for 2 hours before it actually takes off.
correct. But I bet that I honestly think that'd go by pretty quick. I'm sure they
I
have a
don't,
lot
I don't
of
see
like.
a piss break in there anywhere. I think
Are
I
they
think
wearing
somewhere that's actually
mag-
scheduled.
Well, I think they do have the high absorbency, whatever.
maximum absorbency garment?
Exactly. Yep. That's exactly what they're doing. And I'm sure, they have those big screens, so maybe they'll just have Netflix up or something, on one of them.
Some everyday astronaut videos or something.
Yeah.
Well, as long as you're in park, I think it's okay to use the media player. Okay, so then that's the last thing really on the checklist until T-minus 45 minutes, and that's when the SpaceX launch director will verify their go for propellant load. And so once they go, and that will be something, that they actually do the go, no-go poll and all that stuff. And then at T-minus 42 minutes, the crew access arm will retract.
Can I ask you something real quick?
Of course.
So this is going to be the first time they've ever launched a crewed mission where they do the load and go, right? Don't they
So I
usually
had
already have
people-
it loaded with fuel before they get up there?
No, normally yes, but I'm trying to. People were telling me that because I did mention that in a video. I'm like, this is the first time humans will hear propellant flowing, through the vehicle. And then someone pointed me to some of the old Redstone videos, and some of the quotes from like I think Gus Grissom and I think John Young or
Shepard.
someone said like, that they could hear all the pings and the pops as the fuel was loading. But I think if I remember right, they still had the vehicle loaded up and they were just doing top off, once they're in it.
Mm.
But I'm pretty sure this is the first time that humans will get on it empty and then they will totally load it up while they're inside it.
I seem to remember that was a concern at one point that's just never really been done before. So they wanted to, make double, triple sure that that's, safe and everything.
Yes, it did raise an eyebrow, and actually it was kind of a little bit of point of contention between SpaceX and NASA. And SpaceX was arguing, well, this way, we're not putting any of the ground crew and the people that help them get into the spacecraft, we're not getting them around fueling operations at all. Everyone's completely clear for the pad except for, the astronauts.
Mm-hmm.
And then at this point, the astronauts are in the safest place they could be, which is inside of a, sealed spacecraft with a launch abort system arm.
Right. Yeah.
So if there is a problem, it's really rare for a vehicle once it is fully topped off to have any problems. The problems are typically, in transferring and things like that. So it's not like it's necessarily, but personally, I would be a little bit hesitant to walk up to a vehicle knowing that it's full of cryogenic fuel and everything. I don't know. It just seems,
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I didn't mean to break your flow. When you said that, I remember hearing that once upon a time that was.
Oh, it's fine. And I've even walked underneath an Atlas V that had a solid. Oh, no, maybe I haven't been under one of solid rocket boosters. But there's something I think. Okay, I've been under an Atlas V on the launch pad, and it was totally empty. But I remember thinking, like, to me, that was already scary feeling. And then, can you imagine if it was one that had solid rocket boosters? Those are literally full of fuel.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just look up and be like, okay, if this thing happens, if someone's smoking right now or something, like, I'm dead. Oh, yeah, exactly. No, thank you. Okay, so the launch abort system is armed at T-minus 37 minutes, and so then everything will be good to go at that point. And so they don't actually start putting fuel in until T-minus 35 minutes, and that's when they start doing RP1 and first stage liquid oxygen at the same time. And then at T-minus 16 minutes, they start pushing liquid oxygen into the second stage. T-minus 7 minutes, Falcon 9 begins engine chill. That's where they start to flow fuel through the engine and chill it down, ready before it's ready for firing. T-minus 5 minutes, Dragon transitions to internal power. T-minus 1 minute, the command flight computer to begin final pre-launch checks. And also at T-minus 1, propellant tank pressurization to flight pressure begins. So at that point, it's totally pressing up. We'll put the tanks under about 3 bar pressure and ready to go. At T-minus 45 minutes or 45 seconds, the SpaceX launch director verifies go for launch. The engine controller commands engine ignition at T-minus 3 seconds. And of course, T-minus 0 is liftoff. So
we all crap our pants.
Yes. I mean, this is some exciting stuff. And then the next part, of course, is pretty much a normal Falcon 9. We've already seen this happen with Demo-1, which is over a year ago. This is pretty much a very similar series of events for compared to like the commercial resupply missions or almost any Falcon 9 mission, really. So max Q is right about a minute into flight. 2 minutes 33 seconds is main engine cutoff. 2 minutes 36 seconds is second stage separation. 2 minutes 44 seconds second stage ignition. And that burns until 7 minutes and 15 seconds. That burns until 8 minutes and 47 seconds. Then the first stage will land downrange on the drone ship at T plus 9 minutes and 22 seconds. Remember, they are not doing return to launch site landing for these crew missions. Even though it's the same destination as a cargo vehicle, they are landing it on the drone ship instead of doing return to launch site landing, which is a little bit sad. So here's that profile. And the reason they do that is so that it's a nice shallow trajectory for the upper stage. So that if they were to do a return to launch site landing, that has to put it up really high. And then the second stage is this portion of that flight profile where if the crew would have to abort, it would put them up really high and they'd re-enter way too steep. And it would not be survivable. So they intentionally are making it this nice shallow profile so that if they have to abort at any time, they fly through plenty of atmosphere before re-entry to slow down enough to have low G forces. It's all about like crew safety, obviously, every little thing. So then it will take a little bit over or a little bit under a day, or basically a day to get to the International Space Station. And they're going to do a couple of little checks and things. But the other thing I wanted to share with you guys that I think is really interesting, I just want to read through some of this. I'm not going to read through all of it because it is a lot. But this is the launch weather criteria for the Falcon 9 with the Crew Dragon. And it's things like do not launch. I love it.
A lot of do not launch.
With an entire fact sheet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Basically like 14 things of like do not launch within 3 nautical miles of a thunder debris cloud unless specific time, like all these different things. So, like I said, one of the hard things about this is that they can't really all the way from launch the entire profile, like all the way up to Nova Scotia, basically from Florida to Nova Scotia, all the way along the East Coast. They have to have clear weather because if they were to have to abort, the crew needs to be able to be, evacuated safely by boats and stuff like that. So they have to have clear enough weather that for all those considerations. So I'm nervous that, this could be a type of thing where I'm stuck down in Florida for like 2 weeks waiting for a launch or something.
Are you going? Have you decided?
I am going. Yeah, I am going.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah?
And when they do that, because this is something I've always wondered, is if you don't know where the abort's going to be, ideally you don't have one, but you want people to get to them quickly. So you kind of need people all up and down the coast, even into Canada, potentially on call. Like, what do you do? Work with the Coast Guard, work with the military? Because SpaceX or whomever can't be like, cool, let's just, buy 500 planes or whatever.
Right. No, that's exactly right. They actually have stations and all the way up the coast, I believe, along the trajectory. It's something with like within like 2 hours. They have to be able to get to the crew within 2 hours or something like that. I don't remember the exact criteria, but I think it's Coast Guard and specifically trained personnel are ready to be able to get to the crew within a certain amount of time, 2 or 4 hours. Maybe
some divers, man, those rescue divers. I have a couple friends here in San Diego that are in the Coast Guard, and that's what they did. Those divers are no joke when it comes to their job. They're as trained and as physically and mentally capable as any kind of special forces guy, like a Navy SEAL or whomever. And their job is just to jump out of a helicopter in scuba gear, or not scuba gear, but like their kind of dive suits, grab you and keep you alive. It's amazing what they can do.
Yeah. Ugh. I'm glad that's not my job. That would terrify me so much. But there's still the request from NASA and the administrator, if you are not, part of this mission, like working, if you're general public thinking to come down and watch, please do not do that. Still at the risk of spreading the virus and things like that. The idea of 500,000 people flock Florida right now from all over the United States. It just could spell disaster for the area, spell disaster for NASA personnel and employees. the whole Space Coast, and even potentially astronauts. Think about the idea that there's a chance that if you go because you just had to see this launch, and you happen to get sick along the way, through you and your transmission, personal responsibility, you could end up getting an astronaut sick enough to not be able to go, on the next mission or something. Like that is a real possibility. So please, just personal heating, like have some personal responsibility and do not go. I have really had a hard time debating whether or not I will go, but as one of less than 100 media personnel given permission to come, as part of my job, I will be attending with great safety.
I mean, before the virus hit at the beginning of the year, I was kind of expecting I would go to this if I could. But even then, I was like, I think I kind of want to watch it on YouTube. Like, I kind of want to see the stream because they're going to have cameras in the thing and there's actually going to be people in there. Like, that's going to be, that's probably a better experience to me anyway.
And honestly, as far as launches go, this will be a relatively boring launch, to be honest. Like, it's an actual launch because it's not even a return to launch site booster landing. Like, you guys got to see Falcon Heavy. Like, if you want to go and experience a launch, a Falcon Heavy launch is way more visually stunning than this launch will be.
Yeah.
Obviously, this will have a really strong emotional connection to the fact that there's humans on top of it, right? I mean, I understand that, but like, as far as a launch experience goes, go see just a regular CRS mission. Go see CRS 21, where it's a return to launch site landing. Go watch a Falcon Heavy mission, where it's double return to launch site landing. Like, that'll be a lot more fun experience, honestly.
That was the coolest thing. I mean, that's where I forget who I was talking to the other day, but I'm like, I think I've peaked on my rocket launch viewing already. Like the first one, it's like, it's going to be a while before there's one that beats that. So
yeah, that was the first one I ever saw too. And I think you're right.
And we we're on the 7th floor of the freaking exploration tower, as close as you could humanly be. Right. Like host with this party with all these fun things. Like it was just like, it's not going to get better than this. It's just how it is. It's just not. That's it.
You got spoiled. Although I do have to say, if Starship, the first return to launch site landing of Starship,
right,
where it's like, that's going to be what I'm trying to think about that.
Couple years, right?
It'll be. I mean, I think we'll see a return to launch site landing of a Starship Super Heavy booster by the end. I personally think it'll go orbital or attempt to go orbital by the end of by the end of 2021. That's my current bet.
Next year.
By the end of next year.
Okay.
I'd be shocked if they get a full stack ready this year. I mean, I would be absolutely shocked.
Weren't they predicting that at one point? And I was kind of like, next year I could see that. I don't know.
Elon even said they wanted to go orbital, I think, at the end of last year with it, I think.
Elon time.
You can still do it. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this clip from our show. If that's just not enough for you and you want to watch the full episode, you can go to olfpod.com/YT.
And if you want more from us, you can consider becoming a Patreon member. You'll get early access to episodes. You can join our awesome community. You can actually watch us record live and get your name in the credits by going to olfpod.com/Patreon.
So thanks everyone for watching. Check back every Friday for new clips here and new episodes on the main channel.
Thanks everybody.